everyone. We have an amazing guest on today on Chat About AI, Vivien Peaden. She specializes in AI related and data privacy and tech transactions. That sounds like a lot, Vivian. I know it's super complex, brand new space, and you are probably one of the best experts out there. So I want to get started. Do you want to share a little bit about your background with the audience?
Yes, thank you so much. It's an honor to join your podcast. My name is Vivien Peaden. I am a privacy and technology transactional attorney at Baker Donaldson. I specialize in focus on AI's recent years just due to the massive amount of demand in this space. Since last November, when we were talking about ChatGPT at Thanksgiving, I thought it's just, a joke. But fast forward a year later, every regulators are trying to catch up with this emerging trends, and what a lot of our clients has needs to understand how they gonna harness the power of big data and AI machine learning, and also told a careful lines of complying with the laws and be mindful of the recipients who might be impacted or influenced by the outputs of AI. And joining this space is very exciting. I'm talking to really smart people who are in the IT space just like you to absorb the new knowledge and then digest and synthesize and then communicate it in a way that a regular person can understand. I am a legal simplifier, like
I
to say
love
that,
that. Yeah.
because I don't like talk about laws like it's Latin. It should be something that easily understandable for folks who gonna leverage this technology in the future and our kids. And being a mom, I absolutely think that my children's life is gonna be much better. And I feel like it's my duty as an attorney and as a great citizen to help this great technology be on the right track so that we can all enjoy our life better 20
Oh, I
years from
love
now.
that. That's an incredible mission, an incredible purpose. And, like you said, everyone has been announcing that they're using AI, some form of AI, whether it's large language models as part of their reporting, or they're using generative AI to actually create new documents and process those documents from a knowledge perspective. Salesforce to Microsoft to Google, all of them are in on it, right? And you've been actually working on the contract side of it, trying to make sure that the legal language around integration of this technology into the customer's domain, right? The customers that use those platforms is covered from a privacy and data perspective. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Ever since the AI ChatGPT come into this world, big company, the boards are paying attention. The C-suite levels are thinking about how they can leverage the great technology. And the mandate is, hey, everyone's in the room from the ITs, from the business operation, marketing, PRs, HR. Let's look at it. How can we improve? And it almost creating almost an arm race of AIs. You see the Googles and the Microsoft each developing new technologies and saying their model is the best. Just like reminds me of more than a decade ago, AWS, you got Azure, everyone competing about it. You got a data warehousing platform, you got multiple choices. And we're just having this new line of product. Kind of reminds me of cars. Every
Yeah.
year they said there's a new model. How are we going to make sure this car go on the street and really make you look cool, underscore your social standings, and take you from point one to point two, but also not hitting people, not having those meltdowns that you hear on horrors on the Thanksgiving dinner. Someone's stuck on the road because their battery dies, or the cars doesn't even have the fuels or electric powers, and that's not what we want to hear. We want to hear fairy tales, happy
That's right.
stories, rather than the Halloween stories. And in that background, companies are looking at tools, and providers and the venture capitalists and the investors are putting money left and right. It is so exciting for a lot of entrepreneurs, and I'm so excited for many of the people who are in Atlanta who say, I have a great idea. I'm going to create a great AI tool to help companies. And so the buy side and the sell side are also exciting. They want to embrace that tool. And at the end of the day, instead of waiting for lawmakers to have the rules and regulations, we're having the good old fashioned way of shaking hands and signing a contract. And that is gonna something either gonna come back to haunt you, or 5 years later to say, I made a really good decision and this is the right tool.
Right.
Because people are so excited to get contracts, people just signs it. People want to start with a proof of concept without looking at terms and conditions. Many of them start with, hey, just $100,000 for a few months proof of concept. Let's try it. And the order form that you're looking at is usually one pager, price, months, and a little bit virtual CPUs fees that surely you can
Right.
afford it. And then the terms and condition is in a teeny little hyperlink right above your signature. They want to make sure you look at it and signs it. And I in a privileged position to help a lot of large enterprise customer to say, hey, let's look at those terms and conditions. Let's see what we are giving away and what the outputs are we are getting at. Is this vendor the right fit for us from an operational model, meaning do they deliver the tools that I'm
Right.
looking for? And number two, the data that I put into this, that I made available to this AI service provider, is there enough protection? Are they going to use my data, most of it, in order to improve efficiency? You kind of have to give away some of your proprietary information. You got, just like when we're dating, we have to be vulnerable. We have to tell people what we care.
Yeah.
And this digital dating is about, oh, what is your proprietary information? Let my AI do some magic on it, and which is great. But everyone should really need to think about what is the protection around those data. Is it going to be breached? Is it going to be used to train an AI model that you do not want to be so smart that they learn too much about you, especially if you are an early adopter of the modules, then it became your models. And then having the service provider go up and then sell it. For example, if I'm a CRM provider and I'm provide using an AI tool, and then that provider will go to another CRM provider and say, I actually have this great client that use my model, wink wink, and somehow
Right.
this model
Especially
is
from competitors' perspective, right? Like you have Home Depot and Lowe's training the same model, and
right.
what happens in that case?
Right, and then you think about all the host of antitrust issues, which I have great colleagues to look at. But at the end of the day, I think the business, if you have a few words to tell the executive, is that, is my data secure? Is my data protected and not shared with unauthorized third party?
Right.
And quite frankly, if we part ways, which we all know in this world, nothing is forever, even the diamonds. And business relationships sometimes don't work. There's new and better technology that's on the horizon. The company needs to move on to the next one. Will I be able to just wipe out this AI tool just like I wipe out my old phones and then donate it to, let's say, Habitat for Humanity or Salvation Army? And those are the things that people really need to think about regarding the data protection piece. Another piece is about the IP. You put a lot of your information and have these vendor to be the custodian, to be the creator, to be to create all those magic and
Mhm.
DAS so that you can tell the board that you improve efficiency. But who owns the output? What the deliverables created by the AI? It really should belongs to the company, even though it's debatable. It's important to kind of bifurcate who owns what. When does their IP start, and when does their IP end, and when does my IP ownership start? By having a good fence, we make better neighbors.
Yeah, no, I think those are great consideration. Is there a template that you use consistently between from contract to contract, or is this like negotiable one by one in each specific case?
It is each in specific case. I would think there are just not that many AI models, and everybody should rip it out of the same template. But I was disabused very, very quickly. I think each service provider go up and talk to their own lawyers and come up with what they think is the most favorable to them. Some
Okay.
providers have terms that are really, really aggressive. Some are more in the middle of the market, and also it's a conversation about who has more leverage. Some service provider actually has been in the market for a very long time. They have a massive amount of horsepower,
Mm.
and the AI is an extension of their success, and they really get to dictate a lot of terms. And so the service and customer is actually on a more vulnerable side because they will be thinking, well, if I don't buy it, I'm going to lose out to my competitor who
Right.
just told me on a cocktail party you know, they can do 10 people's job with only 2 people, and I'm having
Right.
10 people sitting here not achieving that result. So, the flock, everyone's chasing the pack, and then people wants to size each other up. And that kind of incentivizes people to sign up for something that later on they might regret. So
Mm.
it's kind of our role as a privilege to tell people what they get and what they may put certain of their information at risk and make an informed decision rather than an impulsive purchase decision like what I might do tomorrow
That
on
you're gonna
Thanksgiving.
regret later, right? Yeah, we've all made those for sure. It's like
Yeah,
you
at
bring
least
it home and you're like, what did I just do?
right, but at least you should say, hey, what is the return policy? Is it 30 days? Is it
Right.
45 days? Is it to perpetuity? Just know your guardrails so down the road that if you do change your mind and things are not delivering at that output, you can go talk to the provider and say, look, listen, after this year, we're no longer partnering with you. This is my data. Please delete it completely, and we wish you best of luck. Versus a very messy situation where, oh, they hold all your data. Oh, and they're not helping you migrate your data.
Mm.
And they're not doing anything, and they're giving you a huge bill if you want to leave. That is unfortunately a messy situation, and it
Yeah.
doesn't make for a happy marriage or
I don't know
separation.
if it's okay to ask this question, but like you said, there are big players out there that we all hear about, with Google, Microsoft, kind of being the top two, I would say right now in terms of large language models that people
Mhm.
think about. Obviously, Salesforce, some others are trying to get into the game as well. Are you seeing like contracts in terms of, are there some, like, is Google easier to work with versus Microsoft, or is it Amazon? Like, who's really coming? Like, if I was to find a partner to do this with, I mean, what are, I guess, if you don't want to name names, like, what are the things I should be kind of, like you said, like, make sure my data is separate, right? Like, I really need to think about whether they'll be able to delete that data from the large language model. I don't think that's technically super simple. I mean, unless you really separate it completely from everything else.
It is a difficult conversation. And then I think people, we are literally making the plane while flying to the moon. We're running at that space. We haven't even asked each other, like, once you get to a certain latitude, do you think you have oxygen? We don't care. We are running at 100 miles per hour. Think about this, the good old story that you see at OpenAI last Friday. God
Oh, wow.
bless everybody who had gone through it. And in the good old time, it might take weeks. People, might think about it. And guess what? I think yesterday the seems like the dust has settled, and they make progress of retaining their leaders. And so I wouldn't say it's an easy answer. Is it all these biggest players, it's not much of a negotiation. I
Mhm.
had some of the banks or energy companies go to these players, and if you don't spend beyond a certain amount, there's very limited amount of legal terms you will get
Mhm.
to negotiate. What
Got it.
they can do is usually they will say, okay, I can make some flexibility in the order forms. Or they're going to say, you know what? Here is the entire documentation you can read. Then you can learn how to adjust our platform. It is highly agile. It is vendor agnostic, and you learn how to adjust it based on your requirement. And here's, if you really want to know on a deeper level of what is the best practices, here's a consultant that we provide. So
Right.
it is a highly profitable marketplace that in order to fully protect your information so that the service provider will perpetually not be literally not seeing your data, not actually get to do it for other purposes, you gotta read the fine print or get really trained up. Think about a Salesforce. I mean, it's something we all hear, but you've seen so many organizations. Some organizations, Salesforce works great. I have one customers, their Salesforce works so well. It's like a pro. It is highly configured. It's fully supporting their
Right,
sales team. That's called a real Salesforce. And
right,
then
right.
also, right, I said, wow, this is a real horsepower Maserati, if I may
It's
say,
a very
Salesforce.
expensive Maserati for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they buy the premium model. Not trying to sell Salesforce. I'm they're not my clients. I'm not sure, but since it's a
Right.
very everybody can relate, that Salesforce is customized based on that company's sales process and work stream. They have a Salesforce administrator making sure things are done right. But I have seen another company, their CRMs are just not configured. It is literally like an in the out of the box setting. It does
Sure.
very little. It does not really help the organization. So I think you either invest a lot of money, buy all those modules on top of Salesforce to make it perfect, or you invest on the back ends to really configure it
Hmm.
at the outset, and then hire a person to manage, which goes to the topic of how do we manage AI? You got to have a human in the loop. It is not to replacing us, but instead give us more capability
Hmm.
to go from point A and point B. Back in the days when I was a little girl in China, I never seen private cars, and I had a really humble beginnings. And I only see buses. I've never seen anybody who owns a vehicle. And
Yeah.
everybody, we were a kingdom of bicycles. And guess what? I'm in the kingdom of automobiles in America after
Yeah.
living here privilegedly, American citizens, and I benefit from the prosperity of this great country. Everyone owns a car.
Right.
And so I have the tool to actually commute, travel, and do a lot more than riding a little bicycle and be limited at employment opportunity here in my little community.
Hmm. I love that. I love what you describe. It's a way of really improving productivity. I'm actually in the midst of trying to build something what I'm calling a technologist, advisor, right, or agent that will take kind of this me information that we have in terms of different technologies from our people and essentially build a data, a chat interface through Teams that would allow people to ask questions, like having a best subject matter expert sitting in a room with you. Instead of reaching out to a person right away, you could start talking with an agent that we can tell you some information and then expand into the human as the information becomes more complex. But I see us using more and more of these agents. So we don't, they're going to be more specialized, potentially models or agents that we can use to um, append the work that we do, right? And we can be a lot more productive, but we're still in the center of that interaction with the machines. And
Yeah,
those agents might even interface with each other, right? So in the future, it could be multiple discussions between two machines and then an output of some kind.
well, that goes back to an interesting topics that AI's been around for a long time.
Yeah,
Because ChatGPT really turned it from a bicycle into a Tesla, not right, or whatever vehicle you
right.
want. You know, Mercedes Benz, and you can Buick or whatever vehicle that you like. And that's why it got our attention because it transformed our life. Think about all the chatbot that you might, if we live in Atlanta, we will book flights with Delta. If you want to change flight, Delta has a chatbot.
Right.
And I just got a package from Amazon. Shh, don't tell my kids. I open it and I realized, ooh, Santa made a mistake, put it
Yeah.
nicely. That was not what I was looking for. What am I gonna do? I go on Amazon and there's a chat box to guide me on, do you want to replace it? Do you want to
Right.
return it? And what's the problem? Oh, it's actually a one of a kind thing, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna refund you. And it's and you also go on lots of websites. I have seen people in certain companies' website, they said, I have a chat box to help people know more about my company before they apply for a job. Why do I need to apply to Amazon versus Google? Because Amazon has for example, maybe have a chat box on their website to say, we have great benefit. Do you
Right.
know we offer 4 months of maternity leave? Do
Yeah.
you know our retirement package is top of the line? Do you know you have no copay if you join us? Because our
Or
insurance
even
is
like career growth opportunities. Hey, if you join now, here's your career path. That's something that's been completely missing, right? From the whole process. You join
so
a company and you're promised something and you don't know whether it's going to come true or not, or how you're actually going to grow in that company long term. So,
absolutely. So those chatbots are helpful. But on the other hand, you got to understand where that chatbot is implemented based on industry. In some use cases, because it's HR related, can you imagine that a chatbot or a AI sorting modules who sort through resumes causing individuals with certain last names or certain background not advancing to the next role? And
right.
that is very devastating for those certain individuals. And I recently have seen an individual actually file claim against a certain HRIS models because he realized for all the application he submitted to company that use this HRIS models, he's not getting any interview.
Mm,
It's consistently and it crushes egos. He or she is over the age of 40 and certain background and they feel like they're not being fairly treated. So that
right.
goes to EEOCs are looking at it. New York City has laws regarding if you're using these automated decision making HR models, you need to make disclosure so people know, oh, so my resume is going to be sorted by a bot. And
Right.
then you can raise your hand and say, no, I don't want the robot to look at my resume. I want Vicky to look at it and
Right.
judge me by my own merit. You might see something that robot doesn't see because a resume tells a different story with a human who make critical thinking about, oh, she took a few years off. That's
Right.
because she had kids.
Yeah.
She's a woman of color, or she is a person who of an immigrant, and she has to work a lot harder to get where she is. And that robot would never appreciate it. And
Right.
that's why in educational, if you had those chatbots teaching kids certain lessons, which is great, but what if the chatbot does not customize and really be empathetic of individuals who are from a challenging household?
Mm,
Think about in energy and all those sectors, housing, credit cards. We want to move fast, but we need to move fast with be very carefully. We want something to press the brake, just like the cars these
right.
days getting so fast. And one day my car's slowing down, I realize, oh yeah, I exceed the speeding limit, or I actually not steering in the 2 lanes in the interstate when I was driving long distance. And that's what the lawmakers are trying to do. They look at AI as a machine, as a car
And
that
White House just made a regulation change, right? Like, what do you think about the most recent White House AI guidelines, right? That were just put out. How does that really, how is that practical, or how do you see it changing the landscape of things?
Oh, and thanks for asking that. Executive order is something that our president's keen to in making sure U.S. workforce are protected. United States continue to be the leader in the AI talent war.
Yeah.
And our government is fully leveraging AIs to make our government more efficient. And government's going to look at private sector's use of AIs, encourage them to put it in good use.
Hmm.
And that takes time for those rules to finally be implemented. The executive orders are basically saying, you, Department of Homeland Security, please do an assessment and understand how AI is going to improve your efficiency and how is it going to help the people and private sectors under your charge better. Department
Right.
of Education, take a look. And this department, that department, so Department of Commerce and the Secretary of Commerce and all and the NIST also are looking at, oh, what is the guideline? What is the standard? How can we make sure everything is really where it needs to be? So they have a phase implementation. So it's not like Joe Biden have the executive order, all of a sudden the words magically change into a better place. I
Right.
wish.
Yeah.
Um,
Doesn't work that way, huh? It takes a little bit of
no,
time.
it takes a little bit of time. We're looking at changes in the next 90 days, 180 days. It's literally a blueprint for the future. Just like you have an IT project, what do?
Sure.
You're gonna go to the whiteboard and draw the work stream timelines and everything. The executive order from the White House is that whiteboarding process. In the
Mm.
next few months, we're gonna see, oh, phase one, they're gonna do this. Oh, phase two, in 270 days, we're gonna look to this department to do X and that department to do Y. And ultimately, it will take a long time for them to do an assessment, conduct an intra-agency discussions, and then have rulemaking to solicit public's reactions. We're a democratic country. We don't push rules down people's throat, and then get the feedback, and then have formal rules, and then set a date that it would officially kicks in. So we are really looking at an 18 months process
Okay.
realistically. But you know what? We're still ahead of EU
Right.
because EU is still struggling to finalize their decisions. They had their first AI Act release in April of 2021. 2.5 years later, they incubate this baby for the last 2.5 years, and they're scheduled to have a next discussions on December the 6th. And currently, they're stuck on the definition of foundation model.
Okay. So it'll take some time, is what you're saying.
Yes, yes, and I still feel like U.S. is gonna win this race of having a more AI laws come out
So
before
I
the
have to ask about China. I can't get away because I feel like China is so much, I don't know, at least based on what I've read, and is ahead in some of the AI development, right? And even regulation. Do you have some background there, maybe in terms of what you see happening in China? And are they, I know we love the US, we're all rooting for it, but is China really already kind of ran way ahead of us?
I think they're ahead of us based on pure population.
Yeah,
And AI really you can't really build an AI without data.
right.
And for many years, I would say it's a culture shift that it's a culture shift even for America
Sure.
to realize, oh, your data has values. It's your most important assets. And for historically, in certain regions, data protection wasn't the same. So there's a lot of data that's actually made its way into certain modules.
Mm,
And as a result, in terms of resources, think about each country will have natural resources.
right.
This country is more likely to get oil. That country is more likely to get aluminum. So in terms of what's underneath the earth, I would say China has the vast amount of data. In terms of horsepower of harnessing what I call the AI natural resources,
Right.
that's a question because it might be impacted by the geopolitical conflicts that we are sadly seeing.
Yeah.
I don't take sides, but the reality is, in order to train AI, in order to build these technology, you need
You need
technology.
compute. Yeah, you
Yeah,
need the power.
you need the powers, you need tools, and currently certain tools may be denied for various reasons. It may
Mm,
not be readily available to our friends and developers in China. That might slow them down, not from a brain power or desire to build the best model possible, but from a resource standpoint, that might be
mm.
a limit. I don't have a crystal ball. President Xi Jinping just visited the United States
Right.
for APEC. Hopefully, one of those strolls with Joe Biden, some of the topics are touched, but we will never know unless they actually tell us.
Exactly.
And I'm sure they have other things to talk about in addition to AIs. So
The,
I
the
would
pandas. I was worried about the Atlanta pandas.
absolutely, I want to keep that
That's an
panda.
amazing exhibit in the Atlanta Zoo. So my kids always loved it. It was just always a highlight. So,
Yes, yes, I'm sure they were focusing on how to keep the panda
right.
in
We were
Atlanta
just
from the
talking
AI.
about the pandas, and then AI kind of took the.
Yeah, I'm sure. So I do think that China do have the natural talents. From a talent
Sure.
perspective, they have great talents, just like India.
Yeah.
They have resources, absolutely. They need the horsepower to build what
Got
they
it.
think is the best. And then China and India actually are both the most populous country. They are trying to have their regulation in place, and influenced by where government dictates that
Mm.
is the right fit.
Yeah.
The language models are influenced by whoever built them and the ideologies behind it. So that's another
Scary
element
thing. Yeah.
that they have to conclude. They have situation, frankly, if you put certain sensitive words in the
Right.
for a foreign country version of the chat GPT, the output is slightly different than the United States. So you start wondering if there's a filter, is there's a human in the loop that's censoring it. Kind of hard because it came out really fast, right? So
Yeah.
but maybe the model fundamentally are trained on certain directions which we can't comment because it's outside the U.S. and they have to operate in a way that they best fit. So I'm just gonna leave it like that.
I like it. Let's leave it there. I'm going to ask you the next question is, there's all this, what's going to happen, what jobs are going to be replaced. And for whatever reason, people have a great time saying, oh, lawyers are going to go away because now we have these great machines. They're going to write all these amazing contracts. And, no one needs to go into the legal profession. I've heard that over and over from different technologists and people in different industries. What is your take on it? You live it. You're a lawyer. Like, where is your career gonna go to in the next 10, 15, 20 years,
That's a great question. I like to still have a job in
Yeah, I want you
I
to
am
have a job too.
I am
Yeah.
I took many career switch for those of the audience who are curious. I wasn't always doing what I do. And for the first many years of my career as an immigrant, I couldn't get a job. And I had to
Mm,
really, really find my niche because I couldn't get certain jobs that's generally available to a certain practice.
mm.
And it's important to find something that excites you. And
Yeah,
I'm very lucky I found it. I actually wake up every day and it's like, oh, there's a new AI. Oh, there's a new tool. I am chasing every day to see what future lies and how can I be a part of it because
yes.
I'm relevant. Because people with diverse backgrounds and thoughts are relevant. Going back to your original topic, I think people who don't know AI or resist AI is going to be replaced by humans who know how to harness AI. Because
Absolutely.
they just, frankly, they run faster. If you just
Yeah.
walk every day and jog, you're going to you're not going to outrun someone who drive a car. Let's face it. So we should all learn how to drive a car.
Yeah.
Pause. Uh, on the other hand, also have to understand the AI's limitations. When you drive a car, you gotta know there's certain alley that might not be a fit for the car because let's think about my trip to Europe. In the
Yeah.
beautiful street of Munich, I look around and realize if you drive a big old American truck, Ford F-250, you're gonna be stuck pretty quickly.
Right.
There is
It wasn't
no
built for that.
It's not built for that. The beautiful European street that we all look on National Geographic cannot accommodate a big old truck like that. So you have to understand the AI as a machine that has limits. And I'm looking at a lot of statistics. Management consulting firm did a really good job of summarizing what they're good at. Repetitive work, scanning 100 documents to find the keywords of do they use the word certain words with due diligence.
Mhm.
They can do a very fast job as a first pass. And so that takes, instead of having 100 associates do document review, which I hear when I first started law school in 2003, you probably only need 20 associates.
Right.
So what does the other 80 associate do? Go to med school? I'm just kidding.
Well, we do have an aging population, so.
Yes, yes, but generally, people who go to law school don't want to go to med school. That might be a stereotype, but me as an example, I'm not good at
No.
chemistry, so I don't want to hurt anybody. Um, but the other 80 associates could looking at different directions. Maybe do tech transaction. Anybody volunteer? Or they might looking at other regulatory works
Sure.
that help company to manage how to utilize these tools, protecting their IPs, and also really mitigating risk in relating to the outputs of AI. So that's an emerging tool. Think about 100 years ago when they built the first car. I bet those people were riding horses or having a riot. If you let them vote, they're gonna say, "Get rid of that thing. We're gonna ride horses to perpetuity. Life is beautiful."
Right.
They just run a little faster than me. Keep us. But guess what? We no longer have people riding horses other than in Charleston for sightseeing purposes.
Right.
But we have engineers, technicians fixing cars, it's a car
Yep.
dealership, and this and that. So there's going to be jobs. And I think what AI doesn't do very well, as informed by certain management consultants' article, is analytical thinking,
Mm.
problem solving. You got to always find answers and deliver values. Not only we need to good at finding answers, we kind of very similar in terms of ChatGPT probably gonna figure out how many plays that Shakespeare wrote than me because I have to rely on my memory and my encyclopedia. ChatGPT do that so much faster.
Yep.
But can you make a parallel between one character in Macbeth versus another characters in The Merchant of Venus? That will be a totally different analytical. Like how do we merge these two shows into Hollywood blockbusters and then make it relevant in
Right.
today's world for young people to appreciate arts? Just like just because movie was invented doesn't mean the performers on the stage going to be out of the job. They find other jobs in the movie industries. And ChatGPT, in my opinion, or any AI is still going to be driven by those people who solve a problem. So I'm putting on myself to say contract negotiation still need lawyers because persuading the other party to make the concession is the height of a human touch and the height of communication. And
And
that's a
critical thinking too.
and critical thinking. If I negotiate on this call and I look at you, Vicky, I look at that person, I'm
Right.
trying to see which one is the decision maker.
Yep.
Which one are more incentivized to close the deal. And I need to speak the language of that person to persuade so that we can get reasonable. If it's just two robots negotiate, I'm gonna bet my button all the sales team's gonna quit, or they just gonna expect each other gonna sign as is because that will slow down the sales process. So I think diplomacy, charisma, and a practical approach and a good old fashioned handshake is still going to win the days. And I can't wait to be powered and have all my little system as AI so that instead of negotiating two contracts at the same time, I can negotiate 20. That
Right.
makes, that makes my life easier.
I love it. I love it. You're gonna do it too. I can't wait to see what you do, Vivian, because I think you're at the forefront of all this. So we're gonna follow you on LinkedIn, right? What's the best way to find you and see what kind of new regulations and new applications we see in this AI space as it evolves in the next 18 months?
Yes, yes, I can't wait. I am so excited to be in this space. And people who need to find me, you can go to our website, bakerdonaldson.com, and look for Peaden, or you can link with me, Vivian Peaden, on LinkedIn. I love to have a discussions. I'm pretty geeky, and I speak common sense. So check me
You
out.
do. That was an incredible discussion. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure. Take care. Have a great
Thank
day.
you. Bye bye.